Hello, and welcome to another video of me making black metal on the internet. Today's video is a little bit special because not only I am using a garbage camera, I mainly use my phone for recording the webcam footage, but I'm actually right now recording on a PSP. An actual real deal PSP 2000 with a camera that you can buy for it. Let me just take a video of it so you can see. And also yes, unfortunately that's Windows 11 up there, but I'm not switching to Windows 11. I'm still a Linux user through and through. For this video and the plugins that we're using today, I had to switch to Windows to be able to activate those and use it, but that's okay. And also, for those who don't know why we are using cassette emulation in this video, cassettes were a thing back in the day. This is an actual cassette. That is, I don't know what's in it anymore because my main cassette player broke a few years back. And the reason why it was so popular back in the day wasn't because it was a decent sound quality or anything like that, although that's a certain vibe that they were going for anyways, that raw, just out of the box sound. But it was because, one, if you're looking into 80s and 90s, it wasn't, you didn't have much of an option in terms of recording. You either had cheap cassette decks or you had big budget studios that early black metal bands definitely couldn't afford. And even if they could, they would probably wanted that lo-fi sound anyways. So that's the main two reasons why it's so popular. And also, even till I believe the mid 2000, it was still a popular option for budget recording compared to these bad boys, the CDs, because again, it was so readily available compared to CDs, and also computers were expensive. Even cheap interfaces weren't as cheap as they are today. So yeah, they maintained a popular culture, I think, till mid 2000, just like consumer CRTs. Even though LCDs were a thing by the time of 2003, 2004, CRTs were also fairly cheap. So not everyone could upgrade to a LCD TV, just like how not everyone could afford an actual computer. And lastly, why they were so popular and still are to this day is the sound texture. So the tape has a certain modulation caused by the motors not actually rotating at a constant speed, so the tape would slow down and ramp up. And also the tape heads, let me just show you. The actual tape that reads the tape and records to it wasn't really necessarily a high quality, so that would also result in some distortion and extra modulation. And also, some black metal bands would just literally put a handheld recorder like this in the middle of the rehearsal room and record their songs that way. And some of them, if they had a little bit more budget and had like a 4-channel Tascam, they would plug the guitars and bass and a 1 room mic probably for the drums into that and record to that. And yeah, that's all the information that you need to know about cassette tapes and black metal. I might grab an actual cassette deck or something like that to make actual cassette recordings, but for this video we are just sticking to the beautiful world of plugins. Also, bands even to this day, not only black metal bands but also mainstream bands, are actually releasing an album onto a vinyl and cassette. There is a video from Mary Spender, which she talks about why cassettes are coming back and becoming mainstream. But as you beautiful fans of black metal know, that a lot of black metal bands like to print exclusively cassettes. On the topic of cold sounding and raw sounding things, I am using actual real deal Metalzone with not the same settings that you're seeing on here. I actually have a screenshot of that. I would just put it up in the video. I'm actually, using a real deal Metalzone into straight through my audio interface and going into some plugins that we'll get into shortly. Okay, before getting into the actual mix itself, let's talk about the tape cassette emulation plugins that is out there. Okay, so for this video, I'm actually using the Vapes Factory cassette. I'm using the home, I guess you can call it the preset button here. There's like a Pro and a micro version. Main difference is the micro version sounds like a handheld cassette player, and the home and the Pro version sound like a real tape deck, if you will. And I use the home version because there's just a tiny bit more low end, and we will get into that a little bit later when we're testing it in an actual track. And this is the settings that I used, and I believe I messed around with the extra settings over here. I believe I increased the rate a little bit more, so it sounds even more like a tape. Cassette is not free, so this is the website. It's $59 at the recording of this video. We also have Klevgr, whatever it is, the DAW cassette. And I actually would suggest you go for this one if you are on a budget, because it's a little bit cheaper and it actually sounds pretty damn decent in a black metal setting. I don't have the full version, unfortunately. I only have the demo version, yes, but we will be taking a listen to it a little bit later. And lastly, the Sketch Cassette by this plugin company. And this one was a little bit on the disappointing side. It has all the controls that you need from tape cassette, but yeah, it was pretty lackluster. And yeah, when it comes to free plugins, we have Tape Cassette 2 by this company. And we have Chow tape, which I've used a lot in my other videos. It's not really a tape cassette plugin, it's more of a tape machine emulator, but there is a pretty cool preset on here called Found Tape Player. So if you click this bar down here and go to Carter, and there is a bad tape, good player, and found tape player. Okay, let's talk about the master track a little bit alongside with what I used. So as I said before, I am using the cassette from Race Factory. I used it for the whole song, start to finish, and it's what you're hearing in the intro track as well. And before that, I have a little bit of a EQ around 144 Hertz. I have two limiters, Reaper's stock limiter and Pro L2, probably one of the best limiters out there, but it's a little bit on the expensive side. And also I do have a reverb plugin on my actual master track. So for those who don't know, and for those who have asked, a master track in Reapers is the last in your chain. So literally every single track would go to this master track, then it gets affected by different plugins. Then when you render something out, it takes that render from the master track. So it's basically your whole output, if you will. Different DAWs do it a little bit different. I know some DAWs don't have a master track. So if you want to achieve the same effect that I'm doing here, you have to send all your tracks to pseudo fake master track that you have to create for yourself. Then you can, do everything that I'm doing in this video. So I'm putting a reverb on my master track, so everything including the bass gets reverberated. And that's how you want to go for raw, ambient, atmospheric, whatever you're doing, a type of black metal. I was actually using Valhalla's Supermassive, which is kind of like a delay pedal, but you can get some very decent reverb effects out of it if you use the presets option. But some people complain that it's a little bit too hard to use and it doesn't actually really do a great reverb sound. So I actually switched it up to another free reverb plugin called Epic Plate by Variety of Sound. All right, let's remove this EQ and the cassette so we can hear how the tracks sound without any sort of modulation and any sort of emulation. And I'm gonna go to the tracks one by one. When I'm done demonstrating, I would just toggle it back on and we can go to the different types of tape cassette emulations that I have in this video. Okay, first off, drums, let's do it backwards this time. I am using Easy Drummer 3. I'm also using the Into the Dark expansion pack, as I did the previous video as well. I am using again the Chunky 80s preset, but this time I used the pure Goth drum kit. I just messed around with it, and this one sounded more and more cold, if you will. And I also muted some reverb tracks in the mixer tab. So because I don't need more reverb, I already have a shit ton of reverb. So that's that. I also am doing a little bit of EQing, a little bit of low passing, a little bit of low cutting here, around 50 hertz, and a little bit of low cutting around 110 hertz. Nothing too fancy, nothing too much. Also using Reaper's stock 1176 compressor. Here are my settings, and I'm also doing like a 50% mix on the drums. So this is the drums and solo with the reverb on the master track. This is without the compressor. Read it. And for the bass, we are using a MIDI bass, as you can see here. I am using the same old bass that I've been using for a couple of my videos now, because that's literally the only bass plugin that I have other than a free one. And a little bit of EQing, low passing and high passing to sound more like a normal bass, not the genty bass. Ton of compression. Let's hear it in solo. And a Metalzone. Yeah, a Metalzone again, this time on bass, because why not? This is a black metal video. It actually sounds pretty damn good if I say so myself. This is without the Metalzone. With the Metalzone. Yep, that's it. That's that. I do have a vocals track here, but I didn't go through recording. Oh, it's actually raining outside. It's soaking wet outside. That's amazing. That's really on the money when it comes to black metal. Nice. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get into the guitar tones. I have two guitar tracks here, one left, one right, and this is the main clean intro. So let's take a listen. I am using the NAM modeler that got pretty famous on YouTube a while back ago, and I'm using some custom pre-recorded models, if you will, that I grabbed from GitHub, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And you have to be pretty cautious with these because most of them doesn't come with a cab simulation. So this one has a cab in the name, so it has an IR cab, but that's not a problem. You can always load your own IRs. So before continuing with the song, let's talk about the NAM amp. So you can grab it from this link, which I would provide below, and you just click Windows installer or Mac installer and grab the plugin. And you can grab models from Tone Hunt, which I didn't actually. I used good old GitHub for grabbing a bunch of these. And in the description, it says collection of models developed by this guy, Steve, and these files have been made by the community on the Facebook group. So it should be okay to use, allegedly. I don't know. This is the instructions for you to how to download it. You just come up here, press code, and download zip. So yeah, for the clean guitars, left and right, both I'm using the same, pretty much the same setting and the same model. I'm using a 1176 compressor, again, the same compressor that I used on the drums, different settings for the clean tones. And also there's a secondary clean tone here. A little bit different settings compared to the other clean tone that we have, mainly more treble, so it cuts through a little bit more. Also, I have a delay on my clean guitars, mainly these two tracks. The third track, the third clean track doesn't have a delay, and I'm using the Reaper's stock delay with these settings. Okay, so for the main distortion guitars, as I said before, I'm actually using a Real Deal Metalzone. And here's how that sounds. Ouch. All right, so for the left and right guitars, the same exact Flipe's uh, clean cab model thingy. I have a little bit of EQ. There was a very, very nasty ring at 3.5K here that I removed from both guitars. I also did a little bit of a low passing around 100 hertz, as I do usually on guitars to keep things out of the way of the bass, which again is not really raw black metal of me to do so. I should have just not used an EQ and go with the ear piercing noise that it was producing. But hey, here we are. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing too fancy. Just in case you don't have an actual Metalzone, you can always use the Mercurial's Metalzone plugin that I used on bass. And yeah, let's listen to the whole track now with some tape emulation plugins. So I would just start here just before the main clean guitars come in. I think this is a real heavy breakdown part. First, let's listen to it without. All right, with the cassette from Waves Factory. And I would play it back again, and let's tweak some settings now. Yeah, that's that. And let's move back to what we had before. And now let's tweak some flutter settings. So I'm gonna take this a little bit more down. And depth is fine. I believe it was 60 hertz when I 0.60 hertz when I started. And there's no restore to defaults button, which is crazy here. But you can also recassette it a couple times to even make it more extreme. Let's try that. Let's do 4. Holy shit. That's fucking awesome. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I got carried away. All right. One cassette. Damn. So you can actually make your mixes mono as well. So yeah, there is a whole lot of range there that you can use, which is pretty awesome. Oh, whoa. Yeah, there's a ton of noise too. Alrighty, let's move on to some free plugins actually now. Let's do the Chow's tape model. And this is the setting that I used for it. I, again, used the preset called Found Tape Player under Carter. Let's see how it sounds with the settings that I tweaked. So it's a little bit less extreme than the cassette from Brace Factory, but if you load the actual preset, it is actually pretty extreme. Found tape player. Oh yeah. Let's make it a little bit less less low endy and more high endy. So pretty fucking awesome if you ask me for a plugin that isn't necessarily advertised for tape cassette sounds. It is pretty damn awesome. Also another free one. This one actually, if you want a simple just the tape sound, tape cassette sound, go with this. It's a little bit simpler than tweaking the Chow tape model, but again, both are pretty amazing in my book. So let's hear the whole track without any of these. Again, without it. Read it. A little bit less flutter than the previous ones because I dialed it down, but it gets pretty extreme. Yeah, pretty great, even for something that costs nothing. And last but not least, another plugin company that I'm not sure how to pronounce, but we have a demo version of it. And I said if you in the previous section that if it's one plugin that you want to buy, it's this one. Let me show you why. So this is again without anything. This is with it. And the reason you can probably guess kind of why, because it sounds extremely crap in a good way. It sounds like you can make it sound like the tape is actually breaking. You can push it to a breaking point. You can go far beyond whatever the cassette provides in terms of destroying your sound. I mean, the cassette can do the recassette thing, and you can absolutely go crazy with everything else. Although you can probably achieve the same effect if you added, I don't know, ton more EQ to the Chow tape model, and I don't know, maybe a secondary saturation afterwards. You can probably get the similar sound to this one without paying a dime. Let's tweak some more. Yeah. All right. That's all I have for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you, uh, it's as cheesy as it sounds, liked and subscribe. Leave nasty, rude, and comments down below. Leave positive comments if you liked it. If you have any plugin recommendations or video suggestions, leave them down below. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye bye.